You want to spend any time with Bernie Sanders or
seriously.
Elizabeth Warren? March 7th, 2020, Episode 5, Season 2 of B&C. Here's the lineup today. On Clyde's memorable adventures, we're going to hear our co-host's report on the Indiana State Libertarian Convention. In our The Dark Horse and the Dropouts segment, we're going to look at how Biden blows back into first place on the Dem side, why and how that happened, and what might come of it. On our Maybe Someday We'll Try a Free Market segment, we're going to look at Owen Cass's American Compass Project. He's a former Manhattan Institute scholar who started this new think tank, and kind of a shaky premise as far as I'm concerned. He really said that. In that segment, we're going to look at this week's utterances from the very stable genius. And then, for all you folks in our Patreon community, we've got a bonus She Really Said That segment about Ilhan Omar's tweet about the types of debt that shouldn't exist.
All right.
So, that's...
welcome back to the Libation Station. Pour yourself something bracing and join us for the conversation.
Yeah.
We do this fortnightly and forthrightly.
Indeed. Here, hand me your glass.
All right.
And Clyde, no matter what time of day, and if we record in the early afternoon, as is customary, he brings something, like these fruit sodas and interesting root beer kinds of things and so forth. But if we all set? Yeah, okay. Here. But tell us about. But we're doing this in the early evening, and he brought Gulden Drak Ale.
Golden Drak, yeah. And, it's a Belgian style brown ale type of thing.
Okay.
The Belgians sort of hyper sugar their brews, and they come out very, very strong.
So it's kind of done like the Belgian monks did in the abbeys of old. And,
that's precisely right. I think this might be just that type of thing. So
okay. I like got a nice
and it's about
head on it.
It's about 11%, so we need to go easy on it.
Dark amber color. Okay.
Yeah, so those of you who are just joining us,
Very
we always
nice.
have some kind of tasty beverage to kick off the show.
Mm-hmm.
Barney here is a conservative. I'm a libertarian. And a lot of the show is where our Venn diagrams overlap, and that's usually on free market economics and things like that. And sometimes it diverges. Sometimes that's foreign policy. Sometimes it's other things. But for the most part, we have a very rounded conversation, and I think it's of value, and I think you get a lot out of it.
We both start from the premise. We might define it a little different, but we both start from the premise of the primacy of human freedom. So
right.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing, because we're going to talk a little bit here about how some people who should be on the side of freedom and the side of individual sovereignty and personal liberty are sliding into the realm of authoritarianism, and so I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of that out there. But you, how often does the Libertarian Party of Indiana have a state convention? On election years?
I believe it's every election, every state election year.
Okay.
So, like we just had 2019 elections in our city.
Right.
There's no convention. There was the last one was in 2018. I think I'm kind of new to this myself, but we went up there last night, and so we just attended the meet and greet on the first night. So the main convention goes on today.
Okay.
Right, so that's been going on today, and they're doing the debates between the candidates, and the delegates will cast their votes for who they want to be the candidate. So that'll happen today.
All right.
They're going through
And you met a very prominent presidential candidate.
Well, I met several. There's a lot of people running for president on all parties. You basically you sign a paper with the government, and you pay your fee, and you're basically running. And then your party decides whether or not you're their candidate,
right?
Through their primary process or the delegate process. So there was about 5 people there that were running, and I met I think 4 of them. I met Ken Armstrong.
Okay.
Who's in Oregon, I think.
Okay.
And he sounds remarkably like Jesse Ventura. Like his voice sounds just
Oh, really?
like
Okay.
Jesse Ventura. And he seems like a super nice guy, very principled libertarian. There was another gentleman, I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry. But again, a nice guy, principled libertarian, stay-at-home dad kind of person. But I'm looking for someone with executive experience, or someone who's going to be to really bring something to the table that something unique, and powerful. I met Adam Kokesh, who I don't know if you know Kokesh's story, but
No.
he's sort of an anarchist.
Okay.
And he's one of the most pro-freedom people I've ever heard speak. Like, he is
Okay.
very pro-freedom, and he's a peacemonger.
Okay.
This guy, like,
All right.
but he's very outspoken, and he's brave. He's not, he's not the kind of peacemonger that's shy. We should all get along. He's very, very, powerful
Okay.
speaker. And he seems like the kind of guy who wouldn't throw the first punch,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't want to throw the first one at him.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how he seems to me. And I really like him. He's kind of got this. He's kind of got this attitude that we'd be better off without a president. So he's sort of running a none of the above campaign.
Okay.
Like a vote for Kokesh is a vote for none of the above.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time disagreeing with that.
Okay.
Maybe we don't need a president. Yeah, I think presidents just kind of tend to screw stuff up. But like Dr. Thomas Sowell used to be fond of saying, when he would suggest that we, get rid of the Department of Education, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or the Department of Health, or whatever it is. And they would say, what would you replace it with? And he would always say, well, when you cut out a cancer, what do you replace it with?
Yeah, very good point.
But I think you do need to stitch up the wound. If
Yeah.
we're going to continue that analogy. So I do believe that we'd probably be better off with a flow chart instead of a president, but we have to actually follow the flow chart. So how do we ensure that that's done?
Yeah.
And Ken Armstrong actually had a good response to that. And that was just that we follow the Constitution, and if it's unconstitutional, you just veto it.
And
It's as
I've
simple
always-
as that.
I've always said any initiative, any bill that goes through Congress, or initiative for something to get done governmentally any other way, my litmus test has always been, would James Madison approve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, is it so much to ask that our president be well versed in the Constitution? They don't necessarily have to be a constitutional attorney or something like that.
Well versed.
But they need to. Maybe there's a class they can take.
Yeah.
Before
Really?
they get elected. Okay, cool. You're president on the condition that you can pass the Constitution test, and
Not a bad idea.
You've got a couple months
Yeah.
to do it. You got from
Yeah.
November to January
Right.
to do it. So
Yeah, when you get in from your campaign stops at your hotel room at night, bone up on your Constitution.
yeah, why wouldn't you? You got the time.
Exactly.
But I also met Jacob Hornberger.
Yes, and he's your fave, isn't he?
I went there to meet Jacob Hornberger.
Okay.
That was the only reason that I paid money
Okay.
and went up there. I mean,
I
I
know
like
you've
seeing my
spoken
friends
fondly of him, yeah.
and such. So I met Jacob Hornberger.
Now he's a law professor in Texas.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's written for Future of Economic Education and
Lou Rockwell's website.
correct. Yeah. America's Freedom Foundation.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So he is literally the nicest, most pleasant person I think I've ever met.
Really? All right.
Yeah, he's super great. But he seems like this sort of middle of the road, down to earth kind of guy. Someone who wouldn't if you were talking to him, you just don't get the sense that he would want to upset the apple cart too much.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention someone here.
Oh, okay.
But I'll just keep going here for a minute. But
Sure.
his take on it was libertarians keep coming in federal elections and state elections at a whopping 2.5%. Right?
Yeah.
Not making any splash
You're
at all.
not moving the needle too much.
Not moving the needle.
Decades.
And that's what he said. We've been a party for like 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's time to get going. And we keep having this pragmatic approach, and we take on a lot of ex-Republicans and sort of washed up or retired politicians who've had some success.
Yeah.
But that message isn't getting through because they're not really talking about liberty. They're talking about a dash more liberty in the, government still controls every aspect of your life, but we'll just, we'll legalize some marijuana, or maybe we'll, maybe we'll defend some gun rights or whatever. But we're never really standing up on the
here's what we mean by freedom
and saying, damn it, this is what we stand for. And there was somebody there named Jo Jorgensen.
Okay.
And she was very well spoken and made a very good case for that type of pragmatism. She was saying this pretty much the same thing. We keep coming in at like 2.5% and praising 3%. You know, Gary Johnson in 2016 got 3%. As opposed to the typical libertarian president getting about 1%. And so that looks like a tripling, but we also had the two most hated presidential candidates ever running in the major parties. So I think that accounts for a lot of why Gary Johnson got so many extra votes, but still only came in at 3%. And she was saying, well, the people who are going to vote libertarian are going to vote libertarian. We've already got them. And we need to start growing the party, and we need to start getting out and making friends and allies outside of the party and turning voters' minds. And she's not wrong. But Hornberger had a bit of a different take on, I don't want to be unfair to Ms. Jorgensen's platform because I don't know it very well, but that sounds very pragmatic. She may...
Yeah, it does to me.
But a lot of times people just kind of want to tamp down the libertarian message. I'm not sure if that's what she's proposing, but in the past that's sort of been the folly of a lot of candidates. Okay. So this is what Hornberger had to say. This is actually from the California State Convention.
Okay.
But it's very close to the stump speech he gave last night in Indianapolis.
Okay.
I want to take these people on directly, and that means the political arena. The people who have destroyed our freedom in this country, and that's both Democrats and Republicans, and they both are jointly responsible for what they've done to this country. They've got a system of mandatory charity. It's socialist in nature, a vicious and destructive war on drugs, a foreign policy that has brought death and suffering to people all over the world, and that has eviscerated liberty here at home. A war on immigrants that has brought death and suffering in a police state right here on the border. There's only one way out of this morass, and that's libertarianism. I believe that the greatest asset of this party are our principles. Our principles are everything. When I served on the platform committee in the 93 terms, there were people on the platform committee that said, we need to water this down. We need to delete provisions here because they're costing us votes. And my position was, are you kidding me? These are our assets. This is the way that we get to a free society. This is how we show the virtues of freedom, the meaning that freedom brings to people's lives when they're not being harassed and abused and jailed by the state for engaging in purely peaceful behavior. And it is the only pragmatic solution to the crises and chaos that Democrats and Republicans have brought into our land. Our principles, which makes our principles the practical, pragmatic solution to where we need to go as a country. Our principles are everything. We are not Republican lights. We are not Democrat lights. We are not socially liberal and economically conservative. We are libertarians, and we need to fight as libertarians.
Very well articulated, very insightful.
Yeah.
Our principles will lead us to a free society.
I think that this is a really brilliant speech because there's this sort of war inside the LP, not war, but there's this, dialogue, this disagreement between the pragmatists, who say we can't just rip the Band-Aid off and expose people to these radical ideas.
Yeah.
And he's saying, well, no, that is the pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because these are our assets and this is what's good for society. And when we go forward in this manner and we tell the truth about what we stand for, and we're bold and brave about it, then we'll have success and we'll get over the 2.5% mark. And if we don't, so what? We're not any less successful than we were before,
Exactly.
And I think that, they think people aren't ready. The pragmatists think people aren't ready to hear that message. And maybe that's true, but I don't think it is, because, the success of Trump and the success of Bernie Sanders, and even the success of Ron Paul back in '08, when people were, going to his rallies and chanting "in the Fed."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you get college kids to go and chant "in the Fed"?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But people are ready. They don't know what rat they smell, but they smell it. Mm-hmm. And the only people, Trump and Bernie, have been up there going, "I smell the rat too." You know what I mean? And this is what it is.
Yeah.
And there needs to be somebody who's a principled, free market, pro-freedom type of person like Hornberger up there saying, "No, this is what the rat is. The entity with the most power and the most guns and the most ability to commit force against the population,
Yeah.
that's the rat."
Yeah. Now, there are a few things, obviously, as a conservative, I would not align with there, but I gotta say, his fealty to principle is so admirable. There's something kind of, I don't know, similar is probably not the word I'm looking for, but just lately, we've talked about this on this program before, there's a whole spectrum of conservatism that objects to Trump. Never Trumpers, if you will. I hate that term because it allows Trumpists to lump us all together, and there's several points on this spectrum. But there's a group that's arisen recently called Principles First, and they had their first summit. It coincided with the last day of CPAC out in Washington, and it was pretty darn well attended, and they had some interesting speakers that kind of spanned a pretty big panel play. And I just, principles, I like the idea of us talking about principles rather than situational stuff, like we need to do this on this particular policy issue. Why? Why is X initiative good or bad? That's where the level we need to take it back to and get back to principles. So yeah, I
agreed.
This guy, he's a valuable voice in our conversation.
and I think that again, like you said, that as a conservative, in the traditional sense, I think yes, there's going to be some things that you don't agree with him on,
right?
But I think we both agree that as far as the Libertarian Party itself goes, this is a very positive force.
Yes,
that he's bringing,
I see that. I definitely see that.
And again, I don't think it hurts anything. Why not go for broke?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
How we doing?
We're ready to move on, but I think we should segue to maybe we'll try a free market.
Okay.
Instead of
all right.
the dark horse and the dropouts.
We'll save that one
come back
for later in the show. Okay, and this is kind of interesting. Like I say, there are these gradations, and not only the conservatism that objects to Trump, conservatism that finds certain aspects of Trumpism worthy and kind of leans that direction. There's another bunch, a guy named Owen Cass, who was an advisor to Mitt Romney, of all people, back in the 2012 election, and then was a scholar for several years at the Manhattan Institute. Was a great outfit. They Theodore Dalrymple and Heather McDonald and a number of great scholars there at the Manhattan Institute. He recently left them to start a new project, a new think tank called American Compass. And it's kind of a crusade in search of a enemy to crusade against or something, because
dragons to slay.
Yeah, I think a Washington Examiner article from last month by Brad Palumbo puts it very well, because Cass and this American Compass they call it a market skeptical conservative movement. And it's kind of based on another. I think they have quite a bit of alignment with. Some overt Trumpist tendencies, such as the CNN host Tucker Carlson, who recently went on a monologue about the market and the family, and it's the something that Trump began playing on in his first campaign. The Rust Belt communities are hollowing out because jobs are going overseas and the plant's closing and which means that downtown starts getting boarded up and you got families huddled around the kitchen table with a stack of bills and a calculator and it's causing social disruption and drug addiction and kids going wild and all that stuff.
Yeah, Tucker's been on a stream of market anti-market rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
A Manhattan Institute scholar named W. Bradford Wilcox, in the latest issue of their magazine, City Journal, interviews Cass, and he says, I agree with a lot of the points Tucker made. We've built an economy and a society that just isn't very conducive to stable families. These are cultural issues. There's not a policy that government can put into place that's going to ameliorate what's happened to our culture.
Yeah.
Cultural trends started to go the way they did when those factories were still booming in those towns. And what would they have us do? And which gets us back, and Oren Cass's big thing is, and this is a term that Tucker Carlson uses too, free market fundamentalism, as if I'm so committed to economic freedom that I'll do anything to, well, why not? I mean, it's a type of freedom, and we always want to enhance our freedom.
Yeah, you're rather committed to freedom.
Yeah,
that's a good
plus
idea.
it's a straw man. There hasn't been any kind of free market fundamentalism. George Bush actually grew the federal government faster than Barack Obama did, and under Bush, federal employment grew at nearly 14% compared to just 8% by. And he dabbled in this tariffs thing, which has been part of the downside of the Trump administration.
And education and
yeah, you're right, exactly. No Child Left Behind and prescription drug Medicare Part D.
Yeah, Republicans seem to be all in for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and all the.
And I know, and just like the leftists are big on saying real socialism's never been tried. Well, I would contend that it's actually true in the case of economic freedom.
Right.
And we've said before on this business of free market fundamentalism, they're so rigid they won't even accept a little collectivism. Well, no, we won't, because they're oil and water.
Yes, we will, just not forced.
Yeah.
I'll accept collectivism because there's a lot of people I choose to collectivize with. Yeah. But I'll choose that.
You bet. And which gets back to Alexis de Tocqueville when he came to America in the 1830s. He said, what impresses me about this country is civic associations, people voluntarily getting together and doing a bunch of cool stuff for society.
Yeah. Didn't he also say that the biggest threat to America, the fledgling America, because it was brand new when he wrote Democracy in America, was that they would start distribution programs, that they would start trying to
coerce distribution,
to focus on egalitarianism instead of freedom, because the freedom is what brings more egalitarianism.
Yes, rather
than trying to force egalitarianism first.
And what I would say to the Oren Cass types and the Tucker Carlson types, the free market, capitalism, if you will, is not an idea. I mean, it's the absence of an ism. Yeah. It's the way people behave economically, absent any state interference.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's organic. It's natural. It comes natural to us human beings.
Yes, I made a note here, but it didn't say for some reason. Okay. But Murray Rothbard, who we've talked about before, was one of the founders of modern libertarianism. He defined the free market as the voluntary exchange of goods and or services between willing partners. And capitalism, as we know it, and as the left protests about it, is not that. Right. There's so much force involved in how you must spend your money. You know what I mean? I was having an argument with a friend about healthcare, and I'm not going to go down a boondoggle road here, but it was just like, well, healthcare is too expensive, and these providers are gouging people. It's like, okay, cool, let's start a hospital. Me and you, I've got a little startup capital. Let's go start a hospital. We'll charge less.
Yeah.
We'll undercut the competition.
You bet.
You can't do that.
Right.
You can't start the hospital because they decide where hospitals go. Mm-hmm. The government decides where hospitals go, mm-hmm. and they guarantee you they're not going to let us open one next to Columbus Regional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a burger stand. Well, it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some burger stands very closely concentrated next to each other on one of our main thoroughfares going through that,
and that's why those are cheap and healthcare
exactly. And they provide those who are interested in the cheapest price are going to go to the one place. The ones with the tastiest special tangy sauce are going to go to the other place, and everybody's happy.
And everyone knows who's trying to pick out a bottle of wine that the middle shelf is the one you want to reach for.
Right? You know? Yeah. And this idea of free market fundamentalism, as if, how come they're so opposed to mixing in a little state coercion? Mm-hmm. Because it's, like I say, oil and water. They don't mix. And
I don't think state coercion necessarily, but as a minarchist myself, like I kind of feel as though the state intervention should be just a system of courts judging disputes between disagreeing parties. You have contracts, you have agreements, and did you honor your agreement? Did you not?
Yeah.
You said this, you said that. Let's try to find out the facts as best we can.
Exactly.
And settle it.
Exactly. And that's why we definitely need an impartial justice system in this country.
Yeah.
That's about all it should exist for.
That's how I feel. But...
And another thing about these Owen Cass and some of these other folks at this American Compass outfit, they talk the markets are deteriorating our social and civic bonds. What is the markets? Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, we're just talking about people, how people behave. A buyer and a seller getting together and say, I think this good or service I'm about to offer you is worth this. I think it's worth this. And then they finally come to an agreement, and then they're off and running.
Right.
Or they don't come to an agreement, and they each go find somebody else to transact with.
Yeah. You sound like Rothbard.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's been a while since I read Memory of Rothbard, but I
think it's really scary, this movement on the right to be anti-market.
I do too.
Because we can't abide two socialist parties. You know what I mean? If we're going to have a two-party system, they can't both be socialist. But they have been for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, they sort of used to both be, capitalists with the, idea of pulling in, where capitalism disenfranchises people.
Yeah.
Right? Well, a lot of times it's the, interventions into the marketplace that actually disenfranchise people. But that was they were sort of pro-market, and look at what we can do with the fruits of the market. The market produces plenty, and we can steal a little of that plenty, and we can sprinkle a little bit of it here and there.
Yeah.
But we got to have somebody defending freedom. We got to have somebody defending free market economics.
Absolutely. I had one more point I was going. I got in a just kind of tangential, but I got in one of those Facebook snits with somebody who said, "Well, you like roads, don't you?" And as we've said before, one of these days we're going to do an entire segment debunking the idea that roads establish basic social order. I mean, for one thing, they protect property rights. If I want to go from point A to point B, I can't do it driving through 5 people's lawns to get there unless I have their permission. Mm-hmm. You've got to, roads.
Let's do it next.
Okay.
Swear. Let's pinky swear right now that
okay.
our next episode will be a roads episode, and it'll be an outside the Venn diagram, because I think roads could be privatized.
Oh, well, actually, I sort of see that. There has to be some kind of a planning commission, at least on a local level, to decide where they're going to go or something. Roads are one of the most basic things involved in ordering a society. The ancient Romans had roads.
Maybe we should make this bonus Patreon content.
Yeah, and
You
because
gotta
this is
pay us.
juicy, I
You
think
gotta pay
this
us for
could make-
roads.
There you go. But yeah, it could be, because I think it would be interesting to hear our community talk among ourselves and do a little debating or offer novel ideas for how it could be
There's a
accomplished or
big
that kind of thing. You bet.
construction project going on right now. So
Yeah.
okay, do you
so-
want to move to the Dark Horse and the Dropouts?
Yeah. We both found this kind of fascinating that.
I find it very fascinating.
One of the biggest comebacks ever in American
Joe Biden
primary politics history.
to go from waffling and missing his lines and I don't know, stuttering and mixing things up, to not changing that behavior at all,
Right.
but to suddenly just become, boom, the front runner.
Yeah.
Pete drops out.
Yeah.
Klobuchar drops out. Warren,
Pocahontas
she's
Warren,
suspended when they dropped out, but I think she's officially dropped out now.
I think so.
So I wonder, Bloomberg.
Yeah.
The Bloomberg thing is crazy because he just got in.
Yeah.
He spent $500 million,
Yeah.
$500 million
Yeah.
to do that, to win this.
Yeah. And he, that last debate, he just acted like such an arrogant little twit that he squandered so much of any momentum.
He was
might have been
probably
starting to build.
maybe he understands sunk cost, and he's like, this is impossible to win. I spent $500 million, but F it, I'm out because it's impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good business sense.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the right thing to do. But it's amazing that he would come in, kick the door open,
Yeah.
enter the stage, and just leave.
Yeah.
But why would he leave exactly at the time that everybody left before Super Tuesday? That's what gets me.
Yeah.
They could have just had the public decide. Well, the primary public
Right.
decide.
Democrat voters. Yeah.
Right. Who was going to be the nominee, but they didn't.
Well, I think something that kind of a fire of alarm that started to spread throughout all the different factions and levels of the Democrat Party was, oh my God, this Bernie may do this, and that, that's a kiss of death, because they all lean left. They all. I'm a conservative, so I'm going to say that they're all cool with the extermination of fetal Americans, and they're all redistributionists. Something we would agree on. I mean, they all believe in using the government's monopoly on the legitimate use of force to take Citizens A's money to address the particular needs or wants of Citizen B.
Take Citizen A's money, run it through the government wood chipper B, and then distribute it like 1% of it to C.
Citizen B. Right. Yeah. And in
the real distribution is all the
bureaucrats and
bureaucrats
grifters.
getting paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, and we've talked about that before. The absurdity of I think of so many things we do around here, roads and bridges, all that kind of stuff, that are completely local projects. But in my day gig, I'm a journalist who covers local government for a media company here in our city, and it's just amazing to me the people that, well, how are we going to fund this? Well, there's some government grants, federal government grants available. Why didn't that money stay here in the first place? So there wouldn't be these layers of bureaucracy getting their take when we spend money on these projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah. To keep it local. So another thing, it's accountable.
Yeah.
The accountability doesn't have to go through layers of bureaucracy.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to accountability, we're not talking about the most accountable bunch here.
Right.
So we're I find it funny. Again, we go back to Super Tuesday. You have this process by which we find out who is favored. But we didn't let that process go through. They had to drop out before that happened. So the only reason they would have done that is if it was clear that they were going to lose and it was going to be embarrassing or something. That wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Right? It looked like Biden wasn't going to do well. There's the only thing that I can think of is that, and this isn't unique to me by any means, but they were promised something.
Yeah.
Drop out now and you get X.
A cabinet position.
Cabinet position or something like that.
Yeah.
Or VP pick
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And that's, to me, that's collusion.
Yeah.
That's tampering with elections. And that's a quid pro quo.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see just why this happened so en masse and suddenly around Super Tuesday, right after.
And I don't think it should be illegal, and I don't think it's like something they should be jailed for.
Yeah.
But it does show that they have absolutely a double standard, and they have no principles whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, what I was saying is that they're all redistributionists, and so. But still, this guy, this Bernie Sanders, was so. I mean, honeymooned in the Soviet Union, sat around we've all seen the video of him sitting around a table with a bunch of comrades, and he's shirtless and half crocked and singing "This Land Is Your Land" and all that. And what the praise he's had for Castro and the Ortega regime in Nicaragua, and
that's the real clear thing is you're sitting around a table drinking and making peace with some people. I like that idea.
Okay. I did it when I went to the Soviet Union. I didn't sing "This Land Is Your Land."
You want to drink some? I would love to go to. I
was in a situation where I was shirtless and knocking back some.
If I thought I was going to be safe, I'd go to North Korea and hang out and drink whatever they drink and eat cabbage and sing songs with North Koreans. I think that'd be a blast, and it'd probably be a good way to build bonds between our two countries and cultures. Against the powerful people that keep us separated, our governments, but. His praise for every single communist. I'm talking about socialists. I'm not talking about the Norways and the Denmarks.
Doctrinaire Marxist-Leninists.
He talks well about Denmark and Sweden and all that crap too. But he has a lot of apologies for brutal authoritarians.
You bet. And I think the Democrat Party looked at that and said, I mean, are we really going to go that far?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but again, the populace is saying, "I smell a rat," and Bernie's saying, "I smell a rat too," and I know that we can do this. And on a lot of things, he might not be wrong. He's like, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're spending this here, and we could be spending that there, and if he wasn't just a lying evil person, he might be right. If he was a really pro peace candidate, one might be convinced. But
Sanders and some of the others that leaned real far left, particularly Elizabeth Warren, there's the personality level too. I mean, these people are just so wooden and completely devoid of charm.
And they hate
each other.
Apropos
of what you had to say about Jacob
Hornberger,
that you found him utterly charming and personable and a delight to spend time with.
Yeah.
You want to spend any time with Bernie Sanders or
seriously.
Elizabeth Warren?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all have that friend.
Want to have a beer with them or anything?
We all have that friend, and I might be that friend for some people that just won't shut up about their political view.
Right.
Yeah. So, but Elizabeth Warren is a really good point because she has a platform that is almost identical to Bernie Sanders because, of course, she stole it mostly from him.
Mm-hmm.
So how is she going to show her support? If it's divided between Sanders and Biden, is she going to go with her principles to Sanders, whom she's expressed loathe for on television on a hot mic, which was probably staged, but she's called him out. Yeah. She's been rude to him. She does not like him, obviously.
And what was when they were all kind of milling about the stage after that one debate where she goes, "I think you just called me a liar on national television."
After she was calling him a liar the whole time. She is so disingenuous.
Oh,
and that's the thing. It's just lie after lie after lie after lie with her.
She has a truth problem, no doubt.
I think this is the nail in the coffin when she eventually endorses Biden, if she hasn't already.
Yeah.
Then there's no way anyone can make the argument that she has any principles for Medicare for all or student loan debt relief or any of that garbage because you ain't getting that with Biden. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's going to play ball.
Yeah. That's true. Next week's debate is going to be just Biden and Bernie. Tulsi didn't make the cut.
Of course she didn't make the cut because they don't want her in it.
Right.
Well, I find that amazing.
Yeah.
Because she is the only woman left in the race.
Right.
On the Democratic side. She's the only person of color that's in the race.
Yeah.
Like, by everything we've heard from Democrats for like the last decade, she should be their pick.
Yeah. And the thing is that all types of Democrats, from moderates, everyone will notice my air quotes there, to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders supporters, they're all big on identity politics, and that's got to be so dismaying for like Stacey Abrams types or whatever. So it comes down to two old straight white guys. Mm-hmm. Is that really what it's going to be this time around?
Right.
And how's that going to, how much pressure am I going to feel to really get behind one of them?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
well, I mean, is it about?
We've got a few minutes. We got a couple minutes.
Okay.
I was just going to say that on the Tulsi issue, I kind of see her growing a little bit.
She's willing to talk to a wide array of people. I mean,
right.
She appears on Tucker Carlson's program on Fox News.
Because they'll have her.
Yeah.
Because as she's, talked about being pro-peace and ending the regime change wars and stuff like that.
And she's a veteran. She's I think she's seen combat.
She has. And she's the pro-peace candidate.
Yeah.
And for some reason the pro-peace message gets out. Mm-hmm. It resonates with people.
Yeah.
Obama campaigned on reducing the American imperial presence. Bush did. Trump did. None of them actually have.
Right.
They've all expanded America's military presence around the world and escalated our conflicts. But I think Tulsi is. I think they're afraid that she's the real deal and that she has seen combat.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what burnt kids look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's going to fight against that.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact by checking in with very left media that Tulsi is very much liked on the farther left in the Sanders camp. And I think I think the Sanders supporters would like to see I think they'd like to see her as a VP pick.
Okay.
But I don't think the Democratic Party at large would stand for it.
Okay. Tom Perez is still the DNC chairman, isn't he?
I do not know.
He's a case.
Yeah.
They could. I think they'd be well advised to find somebody else, but maybe he's just what they're looking for. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So what is it?
We're ahead of schedule, but we can move
well,
on. We got a lot to say about this next one.
Yes. And because what we were talking about, we were talking about how there is undoubtedly some pressure on Democrats who are not pleased with the choices this is coming down to. Right. That there's pressure. You're gonna have to make a binary choice and get behind one of them, and that whole business of pressuring into binary choices, and you've got to take a stand, and you can't just sit by the sidelines. You've got to get enthusiastically supportive of one candidate or the other.
Aren't they the ones who told us that things can be non-binary?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
which I agree with.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Seinfeld used to say, but that gets us to because on the right side of the spectrum there is immense pressure if you're a conservative who finds Trump highly objectionable. That's my choice of terms. But there's immense pressure to either to shut up or what's even preferable to that, change your mind and decide to get on the bandwagon and put a sign in your front yard and get a bumper sticker and say yay raw Trump on social media.
I'm in. Get the troops out. Get the spending down. I'm in.
Yeah,
but he won't do it.
Yeah, but there's no way I could succumb to the pressure to support a guy like the very stable genius. In the last week, in the last week, he has said these things. There's a guy named Ronald Clyde who was a pandemic czar in the Obama administration and oversaw the Ebola scare some years ago. And say what you will about him, but he criticized the current administration's handling of this coronavirus situation. And I realize he's been quite outspoken about it, and I'll bet his motives do include a political motive. Maybe more than that, maybe not. I can't see in the guy's head and heart, but Trump sends out this tweet the other day. Gallup just gave us the highest rating ever for the way we are handling the coronavirus situation. The April 2009 to 10 swine flu, which nearly 13,000 people died of in the U.S., was poorly handled. Ask MSDNC and lightweight Washington failure, Ronald Clyde. You got to be a failure or a loser if you criticize Trump. He has absolutely no understanding of the power inherent in being the bigger person, of not responding to every criticism with vituperation like that and calling people losers and stuff. And I've got some more examples here. This is a serious health matter. I have no idea. I'm not ready to sound the alarm bell.
Right.
Who knows? It may not turn out to be anything more than the previous ones did, and we got through that okay. But it might be more. But it's worth taking seriously. But he takes the opportunity to brag about Gallup polls on how they're handling it and compare it to previous administrations. It's low. It's just low. And okay, dig this along the same lines. Here he is on why he wants to leave people on that quarantined cruise ship. He says, I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship that wasn't our fault. This is all about self-glorification and puffing up him and his administration.
Right. They would put and shifting blame and...
Yeah, they would like to quarantine people. Now, when they do that, our numbers are going to go up. That's just foul.
Our numbers will go up if they quarantine people? If they didn't quarantine them...
Who knows what he meant by that? I mean, he's the master of the word salad. He mangles the human language with pretty much every utterance. So maybe he misspoke there. But, I mean, the preoccupation with numbers at a time when these people are... late getting back from their vacations, they got work and pick up the dog, and their lives are supposed to be going on, and they're on this damn ship.
Right. Yeah. Just like doing it. What do they do? Doing a circle?
Yeah. Do they just stay in their cabins all day with a thermometer in their mouth? I mean,
hopefully it's in their mouth.
Yeah, really.
I'm not sure how coronavirus works, but
and then when he went to see the Tennessee tornado damage, he was in some town in Tennessee, and I should have sent. We still could have put it up for the folks to see. I've got a link to a video of him with some people in one particular community in Tennessee that got really badly devastated. He said, and I've heard there was a story about a 8-year-old boy that got picked up by the tornado and set down blocks away, and he said, I felt like I was flying. Does anybody know what happened to the rest of his family? And the people around him, the locals, are saying, yeah, Mr. President, his parents and siblings died. And he goes, oh, okay. And just, I mean, he showed no emotion. Yeah. And then, on Thursday, Vice President Pence visited Washington State's Emergency Operations Center. Washington's seen as the epicenter of the coronavirus within the United States, with at least 14 deaths and almost 80 cases. And he said, okay, let me back up. Governor Inslee, the Democrat governor of Washington State,
he's a real piece of work, that guy.
And he has had a lot of critical things to say about Trump. Once again, an opportunity to be the bigger person in a time of national, not emergency, but national heightened concern.
Right.
But okay, so Pence visits the Washington State's Emergency Operations Center and says, "I do want to commend Governor Inslee and Mike Pence. He's from our city,
Yeah.
and I know I know him, or I've met him many times, had lunch with him once, and all that, and he's an unfailingly nice guy, and so, he's the kind of the foil for his boss. He's the exact opposite. Trump. He's never going to say anything that so out of line that somebody will accuse him of being a bull in a china shop. That's not his wheelhouse. Right. So he says these nice things. I do want to commend Governor Inslee, your team's effort, and the seamless partnership that was forged from the very beginning between our administration and your administration here at the state level. When asked Friday noon about Inslee, Trump had a very different response. "Oh, I told Mike not to be complimentary. The governor's a snake. I said, if you're nice to him, he will take advantage," Trump added. "Mike may be happy with him, but I'm not." Can't you save that stuff for some other time? Why do you got to squish Inslee like a bug at a time when you have tasked your vice president to get together with the pertinent people and address this damn thing?
I think Mike Pence is actually, this is one of his really good strong points.
Yeah,
is that he's good at giving credit where credit is due.
Yes.
And he
used to work with Buttigieg when he was governor, and Buttigieg was
and it was real
mayor.
hard for him to criticize Pence when the whole world knew that Pence had complimented him and said great job on whatever the hell that was.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It probably wasn't that great of a job, but at least
graciousness.
At least Pence is
Basic
gracious.
graciousness.
At least he's going, hey, God, everything seems to be political these days.
I know.
And Mike Pence, of all people, who is claimed,
Mr. Nice Guy.
On the left, they would say that Mike Pence is Mr. Not Nice Guy. It's impossible for him to be nice. He's the evil scourge of America.
Yeah.
But
he signed that damn religious freedom bill. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, we need to do a show on that one.
All right.
Oh, I got some opinions on that one.
Okay.
But he's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I think you need that. You need to just say, hey, we can work together on this thing. Because you know what? The American people elected us to do that.
Yes.
So let's do that now.
Yeah.
And I don't see the VSG, I don't see a lot of Republicans, and I don't see a lot of Democrats doing that.
No.
And Mike Pence does that.
Yeah. Yes.
And I disagree with him on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, then there's this one. Now, the very stable genius has an uncle, John G. Trump, who was a professor of electrical engineering at MIT. And I guess he's rather widely renowned in that field. And Trump then also had to stop talking about the coronavirus and our current situation. Mentions, I got this genius uncle, and it must have rubbed off on me, and then he goes on to say, his nephew, the president, spoke of his purported grasp of science on Friday, saying, I like this stuff. I really get it. People are surprised that I understand it. Every one of these doctors said, how do you know so? I mean, because he's trying to parlay an expertise in his uncle's expertise in electrical engineering to a general natural absorption of science.
Right.
People are surprised I understand it. Every one of these doctors said, how do you know so much about this? Maybe I have a natural ability. Maybe I should have done that instead of running for president. Save it, buddy. You're talking. We're talking about a very specific subjct right now.
We could probably find a relative of his that's like a meth addict or something too, or has had a lobotomy, and maybe that rubbed off on him too.
Yeah, and then here he is at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. And he gets up and he sees some people in the crowd that he wants to kind of address in particularly. He says, as of the time I left the plane with you, we had 240 cases. And that's let me back up. As of the time I left the plane with you, we had 240 cases. That's at least what I was on a very fine network known as Fox News. I know you love it, but that's what I happened to be watching. And how good was the show last night? Did it get good ratings, by the way?
Yeah.
The guys, this stuff's gathering momentum. It's happening more frequently now, and it's just unhinged. It's just off the rails. And I'm sorry, I understand it's going to come down to either Trump and Biden or Trump and Sanders.
It's got to be Trump and Sanders.
Yeah.
If it's Biden, it's going to be so boring. It's going to be so boring to watch Biden just get crushed and crushed and crushed and crushed.
Oh yeah, because Trump will, think of all kinds of nicknames for him. And
Sanders might win is the only problem.
Yeah,
That'd be scary.
but the very stable genius is his utterings are getting more his spiritually corrosive and culturally corrosive and detrimental to the national mood. Utterings are getting more frequent, and I just sorry all you Republicans who call yourselves conservatives that think he's wonderful. Can't go there. Can't go there.
Well, I would be happy to go there. If he's a bumbling fool, fine. He word salad, fine. Yeah. Do the things you said.
Reduce the damn debt, like was
right.
Yeah,
not all the things you don't torture people and
exactly,
and
right.
don't murder the families of terrorists.
Yeah,
don't do those things.
Exactly. Yeah,
but yeah, reduce the debt like you said you would. Reduce America's footprint in countries we shouldn't be militarily involved in.
Yeah,
do those things and I would be supportive if we just gave the Federal Reserve less control over our money. And we actually made progress towards balancing our budget. Man,
he could still redeem his place in history.
I think I'd be in. I think a lot of the racism bullshit has been largely overstated.
Yeah. I don't think he is a racist, for heaven's sake.
I mean, we have to define the term. I think he's I think he's grandpa racist for sure. He thinks all Mexicans make taco bowls and shit like that.
Right.
But like I don't think he thinks that white people are superior to another race and that any race should be exterminated or given
that would be
different
a consistent principle,
under the law.
which he seems incapable of having.
That's a good point. That would be it would be a terrible consistent principle, but it would be consistent.
Right.
Consistency is not his strong point.
Right.
But I really think that that anyone who has I don't know, so someone could be bad on economics. Every president is bad on economics.
Yeah.
We'll survive that, Let's stop the bloodshed, and let's get the debt under control.
Yeah, because that is one of these days going to become. It's not going to be abstract anymore. It's going to.
Yeah.
We're going to come right up to the edge of the precipice.
I think that all the people out there prepping because they think there's going to be an electromagnetic pulse, or there's going to be whatever asteroid or whatever. I think they need to get prepared for an economic problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are we doing here?
We are at time almost precisely.
Okay. Well, listen. We do this fortnightly and forthrightly. We gather here at the Libation Station to kick around various matters on the nation's plate of a cultural, economic, political nature. And Clyde, I want to thank you again for bringing along some.
Yes.
Golden Drac.
Golden Drac.
Yeah,
yes.
Belgian ale. Belgian style ale.
It is quite delicious. Mm-hmm. It is very strong. And so if you have a nice bottle of this by the end of a podcast, you'll feel it a little bit. So before we go, I just wanted to say during our segment on the Libertarian Convention, we didn't get to state candidates, and I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, but I just wanted to throw a shout out to my friend Donald Rainwater, who's running for governor of Indiana.
All right.
And you can find his information at rainwater4 Indiana.com.
But okay.
I'm not.
Yes, I know.
I'm not saying you should endorse anybody or we're endorsing anybody, but I think you should go to Don's website and I think you should check him out.
Okay. Please join us again in a fortnight, but in between, we're all about building community. Chime in the comments underneath our Facebook page, our YouTube page, and
you can comment on Twitter. It's Barney and Clyde 1.
Okay.
At Twitter, and I don't know how we fixed that. I wanted Barney
Yeah.
and Clyde, but I don't. There was a comic strip that's called Barney and Clyde. I think that might be who has it.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, you can email us directly at Barney and Clyde Show at gmail.com. That would be really the best way because you can long form give us your take on the pressing issues.
You bet.
You can give us questions. We can respond to that pretty easily.
And we've told you where we stand and where there's overlap and where there's not. We'd like to hear from folks all across the spectrum. If you're a hard leftist Bernie supporter, but you got you feel like you want to participate in the conversation. If you're a diehard Trumpist, we'll take all comers. If you say something stupid, we'll tell you so.
And we're happy to be wrong.
Yeah,
you know what? I've got a very
Yeah.
pessimistic worldview, and there's a lot of things I'd like to be wrong about. So if you can convince me I am, I would love to hear that argument. And I think that both of us are where we are politically because we were able to admit that we're wrong or that we've grown politically.
Exactly.
Or grown.
Yeah, and that's part of what this is all about is seeing if there are places for us to examine the airtightness or lack thereof of our positions.
Airtightness, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So until we meet again next fortnight,
if you want any more, you got to pay us.
Stay vigilant about your
Patreon.
freedom. Well, that's an interesting development.